بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. So today inshallah we're actually going to jump off a bit and speak about the tafsir of Surah Al-Falaq. We began with Surah Yunus with the intention that we mentioned last week, but it ended up being tafsir. So we'll sometimes take Surah Yunus and continue where we leave off, and also from the back of the Quran, because that's possibly more practical as most people recite from the surahs that are at the end of the Quran. So we'll start off with Surah Falaq, then Nas, then Ikhlas, going like that. The reason why we're starting with Falaq instead of Nas, Surah Nas, even though we're going backwards, is because these two surahs they came down together. They came down together. So therefore, there's going to be things that we mention today, they are connected to Surah An-Nas that we're going to mention tomorrow. So the surahs, the two of them, they link together. So to begin with Surah Falaq and Nas, these are surahs of protection. These are surahs of protection. We're going to mention it just now. But what's very important is that some of the scholars mention that when a person recites these surahs for protection, and other du'as that he recites, and other surahs that he recites in the morning and evening for protection, and at other times for protection, while these surahs and these du'as do protect, the strength of their protection will differ. Sometimes the protection will be weak, because one could say that I recited these surahs in the morning and something happened. So how is that going? I should have been protected. But sometimes it is weak. And the reason for its weakness is one thing or two things. One thing because they connect together, or two things if we separate them. Why are they weak? Because a person's presence of heart is not present. His heart is not present when he recites these adhkar and these surahs. So that weakens it. He's just doing lip service. That's number one. And number two, which helps the heart being present, is when one is knowledgeable and aware of what he is saying and reciting. So knowing, the more knowledge you have, it helps in being more aware of what you are reciting. So that's very important as we cover the tafsir of these two surahs and Surah Al-Ikhlas, all the surahs, but specifically these three. Because then when one recites it in salah, in general, for protection, he then can be cognizant and aware of the meaning of these surahs. So his whole vibe changes with these surahs. His whole relationship changes with these surahs, because he's processing what he is saying, who he's seeking refuge in, and from what he is seeking refuge of. So that's important to remember as we begin these surahs. So to begin Surah Al-Falaq, some of the virtues of Surah Al-Falaq is that it's recited for protection. 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the evening, along with Surah An-Nas and along with Surah Al-Ikhlas, along with reciting it before bed, And there's another situation where we'll mention a specific recitation of it. We'll come to it in the second verse. So Allah says, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. So the first thing, we let's translate it. Say, I seek refuge in the Lord of Falaq. So first, Allah is commanding His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam to say, qul, to say. So that brings the question that when we recite these adhkar or these surahs, do we start by saying qul a'udhu, by saying say, I seek refuge, or do we just start by saying a'udhu bi rabbil falaq? Because the command is to say the following words. So do we say the following words, or do we say, I seek refuge? So the scholars say, one of the narrations that Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, he asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam about the mu'awwidhatain, which is Surah Al-Falaq and Nas. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, it was said to me, say, so I said to my ummah to say. قِيلَ لِي قُلْ فَقُلْتُ لِأُمَّتِي قُولُوا. So therefore, we say qul, even though it means say. And because these words of the Quran and the du'as, they are words directly from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Therefore, when we use exact words that were taught to us by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then there's more likely that our dua will be answered, because it's the exact words that have the barakah that were taught to us by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then a'udhu means that al-taji'u, that I seek refuge in something or someone from something I fear. From something I fear. That is the meaning of a'udhu. Birabbil falaq. Birabbil falaq. With the Lord of falaq. With the Lord of falaq. So falaq means to split, to cleave or to split. So there Allah says, faliqul isbah. Allah causes the darkness of the night to split and the light of morning to come through. Allah says, Inna Allah faliqul habbi wan nawa. Allah causes the seed to split and the plant to sprout out from the seed. So Allah is the one that causes things to split. In this manner and also in a deeper manner, Allah caused the creation to be created from nothing. Allah causes the clouds to split and the rain to come through. Allah causes the ground to split and the rivers and springs to gush forth. So it means, falaq means to split. Also connected to this, two more points. And that is, this surah is connected to seeking refuge. So we're going to mention the connection between darkness and night, one thing, and evils. Hence we seek refuge in Allah from the darkness when Allah causes the light to come. And also there is some spiritual benefit in this, and that is the way Allah brings the morning to darkness. Darkness in your life, Allah is the one that can split it and make it go away and bring ease and light to your life. That's another spiritual benefit of Allah saying Rabbil Falaq. Our last point with this ayah that came to my head now is that Allah says Bi Rabbil Falaq, the Lord of Falaq, the Lord of Falaq. And in other places in the Quran, Allah says Fasta'idh billahi, Fasta'idh billahi. So Allah says seek refuge in Allah. So here the name Allah is used. Seek refuge in Allah. And here seek refuge in the Rabb, the Rabb. So the scholars ask that according to many of them, the greatest name to Allah from all of His names is Allah. So then why here we are seeking refuge without using the name, the best name, Allah? We're not saying قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ الْفَلَقِ. Billah. We're saying Bi Rabbi, the Lord. So amongst the reasons the scholars mention, two. And that is, in the other places where Allah uses His name, and that is the best name to Allah, it's connected to ibadah. It's connected to ibadah before reciting the Quran. فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. So shaitan's biggest objective, we'll hear in the Surah An-Nas tomorrow inshaAllah, his biggest objective is to turn people away in ibadah. So therefore when it links to our main objective, which is ibadah, and shaitan's main objective, which is ibadah, we seek refuge in Allah using His best name. And here, it's just something else. It's not ibadah, so we use Rabb. And the last thing, the last reason we will mention is that Rabb has the meaning of someone who nurtures, who protects, who safeguards. So now when we're seeking refuge, it's more fitting that the word that denotes protection and nurturing is used. So قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. So here, interestingly in this verse, listen to what Allah says, مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. I seek refuge in the Lord of Daybreak, from everything He's created. So that is already how this surah starts. You taking refuge in the one, your Rabb, who's the Lord who brings light to dark, from everything He's created. From everything He's created. So here it's a general refuge from every single thing, from every evil that He created, because that's a general refuge. From everything evil, you seek refuge in Allah from it. Min sharri ma khalaq. The things you've created. You are the creator who created these things. So you are the one who is most capable of protecting me from the evils of these things. Then we said sharri, the evils of what Allah created. So the scholars say that evils are two types. Evils are two types. Evils, or we can call them difficulties, that affect you in your life. Hardships, trials, difficulties, sickness, loss, these kinds of difficulties we seek refuge in. And the second type are those things that in the future lead you to difficulty. And that is after death. After death it leads you to difficulty. That means that being led astray, sins, these kind of things that may harm you in the next life. So that's what we seek refuge from Allah in as well. Both things are included. من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب. And we seek refuge in you in غاسق إذا وقب. غاسق means the darkness of the night. The darkness of the night, إذا وقب, when the darkness overcomes the night, when it's extremely dark, when it is extremely dark. So غاسق إذا وقب, the reason Allah is saying that you seek refuge in Allah from darkness when it gets extremely dark. Because with darkness, and specifically when it's very dark, later in the night, then that's where evil spread more. That's where evil spread more. You'll find thieves come out more when? At night. Predators hunt many of them more so at night. Harmful insects come out at night. Black magic is stronger when? At night. And more so the darkness of the night. And we live like that. We live like that. If there's no street lights, we're worried. We want light. Darkness can mean you could be a target. So we want that. When there's no street lights, we want to put a light. Because light can help. Light can help to turn away the evils that darkness brings. So we seek refuge in Allah from darkness when it gets extremely dark. So if you look at the previous verse, we sought refuge in everything. So that already covers the darkness that Allah mentions here. So why that Allah then takes time, makes a point to mention this specific evil and the next two that we're going to mention? The reason for that is that these evils are the worst type of evils. So you specifically take refuge in Allah from these after already having sought refuge in Allah from everything. So we say من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد. And we seek refuge in Allah from the blowers, those who blow into knots. من شر النفاثات, those who blow into knots. عقد. So that is referring to black magic. That is referring to black magic. Naffathat is a female plural of nafath, of the person who blows. Of the person who blows. Naffathat. So the reason why a female plural is used, either one of two reasons or both reasons. That most in the past specifically and also present today, who are the people that engage in black magic more? It is generally, especially in the past, females. Females. That's why specifically an indication to females are used. Or number two, evil souls. Those evil souls who blow into knots, that's where you're seeking refuge in Allah from. And souls in Arabic is a word that's feminine. So then you use a feminine plural. And then we say uqad, knots, knots. So that's because magicians, what do? They blow into knots. They chant what they chant after having done kind of ibadah to the jinn to get the help of the jinn to do magic. Then they blow into knots, chanting what they chant, taking the name of the person they want to cause magic to. So they blow into these knots as they tie these knots. So as long as the knot is tied, the magic afflicts the person. Magic afflicts the person. That's why they try and hide it away in places that you won't find it. Because if you find it and you undo the knots, their evil weakens and it goes away. The evil weakens and goes away. And then, the last thing we'll mention here, why is specific refuge taken in the blowing of the knots? So some of the scholars mention a few reasons. We'll mention one. And that is, if a person is afflicted with magic, he may not realize it. So he feels something is wrong with him. Something is medically wrong with him. And he may go to the doctor and check it up and go for tests, and nothing is found to be wrong. And that's because he's afflicted with magic. So because it may not be known to a person, he may not realize. That's why we seek refuge in Allah, so that we're protected from it before it comes. And if it comes, because of these du'as, it will be removed. But to remove it needs the level of iman when you recite these things. So that's important to remember. That's why we began our discussion, how we began it. So وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ, the last ayah, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. And we seek refuge in Allah from the envious person, the jealous person, when he makes his jealousy apparent. When he makes his jealousy apparent. So the jealous person, his jealousy is something very harmful to a person. But his jealousy only comes forth when he makes his jealousy apparent. So we'll comment a few more things on this, but I want to round up the surah with one point, then we'll finish off on jealousy. And that is, we began saying Allah tells us to seek refuge in evil. We began saying min sharri ma khalaq, from all types of evil. Then we said there's three specifics. Then if you look at those three specifics are specified. Those three specifics are specified. Allah says, وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. So Allah says that you seek refuge in Allah from the darkness of the night when the darkness gets severe. And Allah says you seek refuge in the magician in general. There's no when the magic or this or that, no, in general. And for the jealous person, you don't seek refuge merely from jealousy. You seek refuge إِذَا حَسَدٍ, when the jealous person brings out and makes his jealousy apparent. And that indicates to us that if we start with the second of the three things we sought refuge in, the evil of magicians, it can harm at all times. It can harm at all times. It will affect you in the day and night. Yes, at the darkness of the night it may be worse, but it can affect at all times. The darkness of the night, it's more dangerous at night. It's less dangerous when night just comes in. And it's a fact. Many of us would say don't walk outside alone. But when night just comes in, you're not yet scared. Your doors are not yet locked properly. But once it gets later, then you lock up. Because the evils are worse at night. That actual physical evils that we mentioned, along with beyond that evils. Listen to that. Listen to this. وَجَاءُوا أَبَاهُمْ عِشَاءً يَبْكُونَ وَجَاءُوا أَبَاهُمْ عِشَاءً يَبْكُونَ. The brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, when they threw him in the well, and they came to their father to make the story that they made up, listen to the time they chose to come and make this false story. Allah says, وَجَاءُوا أَبَاهُمْ, they came to their father, عِشَاءً يَبْكُونَ, to protect their distortion of the events, to camouflage their distortion of events. They sought refuge under the darkness of night. Once it got very dark, then they took that as refuge to spread their evil of their lie. They didn't do it in the day. That's why in Arabic you say that لا تطلب الحاجة في الليل فإن الحياء في العينين. When you need to ask somebody for something, don't ask it in the darkness, because in the darkness they may not see your shyness in your eyes, because it's dark. And don't seek forgiveness from shortcomings towards somebody in the day. فَتَتَلَجْلَجُ فِي الْإِعْتِذَارِ. Because of the brightness, because they're seeing right through you, then you start stuttering. Then our last point, we seek refuge in Allah from the hasid, from the person who has jealousy, when he makes his jealousy apparent. Before that time, before he makes his jealousy apparent, then his jealousy harms him. His jealousy affects him physically and spiritually. Spiritually how? إِنَّ الْحَسَدَ يَأْكُلُ الْحَسَنَاتِ كَمَا تَأْكُلُ النَّارُ الْحَطَبَ. That jealousy burns through your good deeds, just like how fire burns through wood. So it affects you spiritually, and also it affects you mentally, because you can't bear to see somebody else having some benefit. You can't bear to see that person has a favor given to him. You want that favor gone from him and come to you, or at least gone from him. That's something that is not allowed. Seeing somebody have a benefit and wishing for it as well, without hoping it goes from that person, that is called ghibta. That is permissible. That is permissible. So it's important to know the difference between the two. Lastly, إذا hasad, when a person makes his jealousy apparent. So before that, it harms him. He is affected. He can't bear to see you in good situation. But when he makes his jealousy apparent, when he starts taking steps to harm you and affect you, that's where it becomes negative. The first sin done on earth was because of jealousy. When Qabil killed, he took physical steps to harm Habil when the charity of Qabil was not accepted. So that's the reason of that is jealousy. The reason of that is jealousy. And when we have benefits, when we have bounties from Allah, specifically bounties that people may be jealous of us for, we should not specifically show these bounties. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that استعينوا على قضاء حوائجكم بالكتمان فإن كل ذي نعمة محسود. That when you want to achieve something, or when you have a specific benefit, don't specifically show people who become jealous of you. Because everyone who has a bounty, someone's eye will be on it. Someone will eye it. And that's why the last point, if we look at the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, he had that amazing dream. And then he went to who? He went to his father. He narrated his dream to his father. And his father says to him, لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا. Do not narrate your dream to your brothers, because they will make an evil plot against you. Because people generally are not well wishers. They're not well wishers. So it's important to know that. But some people are. Very few are. Listen to this point. Yusuf alayhi salam's father said to him, don't tell your brothers. He didn't say to him, why did you tell me? He was okay with the son telling the father the story, but he was not okay with the son telling the brothers the story. Some of the Mufassirin say that the reason for that, لأن الأب يود أن يكون ولده خيرا منه والأخ لا يود ذلك لأخيه. Because a parent wishes the best for his child, that the child even surpasses the parent. But a brother does not wish for that. But a brother does not wish for that for his brother, for his sibling. Meaning a sibling doesn't wish for that for his sibling. We end there. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين.